Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Hector Del Castillo, Chief Product Officer at Bold PM, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's discussion. And the topic for today is PM versus PM. We're going to be discussing and comparing and contrasting the two roles of project management and product management. Before we get started, I'd like to give a special thanks and a shout out to the great IT professional for hosting today's discussion and providing a free PDU for anyone that is PMP certified. And today's discussion, we're going to be talking about the two different roles, product management and project management, and how they are alike and how they are also so different from each other, even within the same organization. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's discussion is going to be focusing on specifically identifying the roles and responsibilities of both project managers and product managers, in addition to discussing the body of knowledge for both roles. We're going to be discussing the PMBOK, the PMI standard for project management, and we're also going to be discussing the ProdBOK, the body of knowledge for product marketing and management from the Association of International Product Marketing and Management. We're going to be talking about the following, and there also is going to be a Q&A portion, so make sure that you submit any questions and we will be able to get to them once we summarize all the key takeaways at the end of today. But we're going to start with describing current situation and how organizations actually have both roles implemented and what happens to those organizations that actually find out how to do this the right way. We're going to discuss common responsibilities of both project managers and product managers, and then the key differences in the two roles. And then we're going to be comparing the two frameworks, the PMBOK and the ProdBOK. And then finally, just discussing some key takeaways. So let's go ahead and get started with current situation. So first of all, I want to ask you, and if you can actually use the chat to respond to this particular question, which role is ranked higher in US? These are all management roles, including project management and product management and other types of management. Let me know what you believe is going to be ranked higher. And just type in your answer in the chat and we'll be monitoring that. So let's just say that CBS News actually had a poll a few years ago and published this poll. What are the top corporate jobs in US? And there was one of these roles that was ranked highest than any of the other management roles. As a matter of fact, only CEOs, general managers, and other executives within organizations had a higher rank than this particular management role that exists today. So which one do you believe it is? And let's go ahead and go. And I will give you the answer now. Product management is ranked number 4th. And every other type of management role that you see here was ranked lower than product management. And we're going to be discussing as to why that is, because product management as a whole is much younger than project management. Project management has existed for centuries, and product management is a newer role that actually was invented in the 1930s, and it has actually grown in importance and ranking within corporations. Here's a different question, and if you can answer which combination of these 10 factors has your organization experienced, have either you or your product teams experienced in the last 2 years post-COVID-19? And here are the different options, and it can be any combination of these. So just tell me between 1 and 10, which ones of these your organization has encountered in the last 2 years. Have you seen delayed or lost sales revenue? Have you seen cancellations and lost customers? Have you seen changing customer needs and priorities, changing dynamics in the way you interact with customers, or disrupted product launches, or delayed product milestones? Perhaps you've seen reduced team capacity. Maybe you also are now mostly working from home or remote working and still collaborating with some of the teams that you're working with. You've seen supply chain disruptions, and also now you've seen a quickly shifting and changing competitive landscape. Type in your answers, and then we can discuss what is going on. And multiple studies have shown that in the last couple of years, organizations and entire product teams have experienced any combination of these 10 different factors. And based on your industry this may actually reduce the kind of growth rate that you're looking for. And the result is that most organizations that have struggled with any combination of these 10 factors are actually still trying to recover to the way that growth rate was prior to in 2019, at the end of 2019, compared to where they are now, and they're still trying to recover. So the bottom line is that most organizations today are trying to become more resilient because they knew that they were robust enough as far as they kept on growing and scaling their growth, and had taken measures in at least avoiding some of the risk factors that they knew. But most everyone was completely unprepared to some of the challenges that were presented immediately once COVID-19 and that economic shutdown that occurred around the world. And as a result, most organizations today are trying to figure out how to bring up and how to increase the resilience within their organization. And there are 4 key factors for any organization to become more resilient. The organization has to become more adaptable. They have to work in a more collaborative way. They also have to become more responsive and have a way to regenerate themselves whenever there's any kind of issues, unanticipated challenges that may cause disruption in their business. And the more resilient you are, the better off you'll be, and the quicker you'll be able to bounce back. As a matter of fact, this is why most organizations accelerated not only digital transformation, but also becoming more agile. And agile, when it started back at the beginning of the 21st century, was all about adopting much more improved development processes. And this is how you build products. And these are the different advantages for any organization that actually becomes more agile and starts adopting agile methodologies. And this is actually from a study that was published in 2008 by PMI, the Project Management Institute. And because of this, more agility means that the resilience within your organization goes up because you are not only becoming more adaptable, but also more collaborative and more responsive, and also are able to regenerate much quicker. So let's move on to discussing common responsibilities. So both project managers and product managers align activities performed by cross-functional teams with strategic business objectives. And also both roles require influential and collaborative skills to guide critical decisions about what to do and what not to do. And both roles orchestrate activities and people to manage key deliverables that are either project deliverables or product deliverables for the whole purpose of achieving better outcomes. As a matter of fact, organizations that actually have implemented both roles the right way become some of the world's most admired companies. Here's our Fortune's latest list of most admired companies. And these are only the top 10. They usually will list the top 100 around the world. And you see that in the top 10, there's some common things. Number one, most organizations that are in the top 10 are either number 1 or number 2 in their industry. And you can see it's not just one industry that dominates. This is actually multiple industries. The only exception last year in 2021 is Pfizer, who is ranked at number 4 as a pharmaceutical company. But everybody else is either number 1 or number 2 in the top 10. And as a matter of fact, Pfizer went into number 4 in 2021 because they were not in the top 10, and there were no pharmaceutical companies in the top 10 in 2020. As you are looking at the list that changes every year, is updated every year. This year, the current year hasn't been published yet because it's coming up in the next month in May, but you will see that it will actually shift once it is published later on in a month or so. The common denominator also is that all of these organizations have both roles implemented. They have product managers in addition to project managers, in addition to other functional management roles that exist. And they actually will coexist together and collaborate to get work done. So I want to ask this question. If you're a project manager of these activities, which is the number one, the top priority for you as a project manager to perform within your organization today? If you can answer this, we can actually move on and then use the chat window to actually pick your answer, and then we can actually discuss a little bit further. If you're a product manager, what is the most important task and activity that you perform as a product manager? And we will compare those answers as we go. But in reality, what you want to see, for those of you who are in a world where both roles exist, you know that project managers will get involved in managing project activities and the performance of those projects in order to achieve certain agreed upon outcomes. Very similarly, product managers will also manage the performance of the products that they own, and they will focus on specific product outcomes that the business is looking to achieve. And both roles will manage those specific performances and using different metrics to measure the outcomes. So project management, as I mentioned, is the project manager actually measures and manages projects and activities that go on to achieve certain outcomes. And the product manager will do the same when those particular outcomes are about the products that they are managing actively. So let's talk about also another key differentiator. Project managers, they focus on managing the quality of the outcomes and the project. And if this is about development of a product, that's what they're measuring, quality metrics that apply to that product. But if you are a product manager, you're actually measuring the value, the perceived value being delivered to customers and users, in addition to the perceived value being delivered to your business, the organization as well. And so one role is managing the value, and the other role is actually managing the quality of a product. When they're working together, one is focusing on measuring and identifying the value delivered. The other role is measuring and identifying the level of quality being delivered through the same product. And of course, as a product manager, you understand that value is not just about quality. As a matter of fact, when you talk to customers and you ask them to describe why they're buying your product as opposed to any other competing product that is out there in the market, they will tell you certain things. And some of those things may be about the quality of your product, its accuracy, the precision, the reliability, and your ability to always deliver on time in a consistent manner. Those are all quality metrics. But also they will tell you about some of the things that they are gaining when they are using your product, some of the pain points that your product is relieving because you're removing and including pain relievers. And that emotional state changes from being stressed or frustrated or angry to being happy because they have access to your product. And often value is measured in the eyes of the beholder in different ways. And as a product manager, it is actually the responsibility of the product manager to be measuring the perceived value being delivered to your customers and users, in addition to the perceived value of the same product being delivered to the entire organization, not just the executives and shareholders, but all the different functions that are involved in producing and manufacturing and delivering that product in a consistent manner. And value can be broken up into multiple things. There is personal value to be gained, there's functional value, there's psychological value, and there's social value as well. And these are all things that a product manager is measuring, different than the way a project manager is measuring when it comes to quality metrics. In another scenario, you can also compare whether the roles are more strategic versus tactical or more externally focused compared to internally focused, because both are management roles. And often both roles get drawn into too many tactical activities. And that's just the way of the nature of both project management and product management. But if you really look at the difference, the core difference between both roles, product management and project management, product management is really more concerned about the strategy, your product strategy. How is it that you're going to achieve what the business wants to achieve with a specific product for the long term? And project management is really about delivering those things that you can deliver on time in a consistent manner so that no matter how the customer buys and when they buy, it's always the same experience that is being delivered, no matter where they buy or when in the year they buy and at what price point. And those are things that are more tactical in nature to manage. Both roles need to stay focused on strategic objectives. And that's just the way of the game. Yes, you can be more tactical. Another role can be more strategic, but both are responsible for making sure that for the long term, that vision as to where you want to be in the market is maintained, and that you're deploying in a short-term scenario, you're deploying tactics over time that will help you stay on course for the long term. Project managers usually are mostly internally focused, whereas product managers are usually mostly externally focused. One way of looking at this is that product managers are constantly talking to stakeholders that are outside of the organization, not just people inside, but also outside of the organization. And that includes customer-facing people within the business, like marketing, sales, customer service, and a few others that get involved that are customer-facing, or they're looking at managing distribution channels, including marketing channels. And those are the different roles, but also they're going out and actively talking to customers and buyers and users, as well as other people that are looking and tracking what is happening in the market where the business operates. Whereas project managers are aligning activities and people within the business, inside the organization. In addition, if they're looking externally, it's on the supply side because they're managing suppliers and key partners where they're taking input in order for them to produce and then deliver value to the market. And so in most cases, project managers are internally focused, whereas product managers are externally focused. And yes, project managers are actively usually overseeing or managing suppliers and partners that are on the supply side, not on the demand side. And that is one of the main differences between product and project management. Project managers guide decisions about how to maximize quality and minimize risk. Product managers guide key decisions to maximize value being delivered, as well as build new revenue streams. They're constantly looking at updating or upgrading your business model, which is how an organization makes money off of sales of products. So now let's take a look at framework comparison. I mentioned earlier that both roles have a framework, and that framework is defined by two different entities. PMI, the Project Management Institute, is responsible for defining the PMBOK. And in PMBOK version 6, these are the typical project life cycles, and there are 5 stages to that. And thus that includes initiation, plan, execute, monitor and control, and close. And the knowledge areas went from 9 to 10 with version 6 of the PMBOK. And that includes areas like integrate, scope, time, cost, quality. We had mentioned quality already, resources, communication, risk, procurement, and then a new one that was added between version 5 and 6, which is stakeholders. Product management, on the other hand, has the ProdBOK, and the ProdBOK was actually implemented and published by the Association of International Product Marketing and Management. And that includes the description of the complete product lifecycle. And this includes not just when products are already introduced to market, it also includes all the work that is done in order to have a product ready to be introduced into market. And so the ProdBOK has 7 phases, and the phases are conceive, plan, develop, and qualify. These are all part of a new product development life cycle. And now you have, once you're launched the product or introduce it to market, you're launching it, then you're delivering it. And in the deliver phase, you're actually going through growth and then maturity. And then at some point, as decline occurs for a product, you need to figure out on how to retire it the right way. And so therefore, the 7 phases have 5 different knowledge areas, and these include organization, market, business, customer and product. And of course, technology or technologies may be embedded across any 5 of these knowledge areas, because tools are needed to track organizational metrics, what's happening in the market, what's happening from a business performance point of view, measuring the business performance compared to other competitors, keeping track of customers, their needs and behaviors and priorities, and also changes that you need to implement to products to ensure that they still have the right fit in the market based on changing buyer needs and behavior. So now if you look at both of these frameworks, how do you integrate both of these frameworks? Product management here is shown on the top, the 7 phases that we spoke about. And then project management is at the bottom of this particular slide. So how do you integrate these 2 different, what appear to be unrelated and often confusing frameworks to try to integrate? Well, version 7 of the PMBOK started because they actually accounted for the typical product lifecycle. And this is actually something that was published by Cutler in the Marketing of Products publication that came out a few decades ago and has become the #1 reference in most MBA schools that talk about the marketing of products. And Cutler introduced this 4 phases of any product, from introduction and launch to growth to maturity to eventual decline, at which point you need to figure out how to retire that product. And that is only halfway right? Because we talked about that there's a lot of work to be done that needs to get done in order to have a product that fits the market, that actually is able to reach growth very quickly. But here's what you would do in a waterfall type of approach. Here's the framework integration, and this includes the 7 phases and the 5 phases of project. So conceive and plan can be managed as one set of one particular project that is about coming up with the right concepts and the right problems and the right solutions and the right business model for a future new product. Then you go into design and development and eventual market testing to see whether that particular product has the right fit in the market. Eventually, once you get to the right fit, you actually are ready to launch the product and you formally launch it and introduce it to the market. And at some point, you will want to drive it into growth and then maturity and keep it in maturity for as long as possible. And then eventually, at some point, when the product reaches decline because of changing buyer behavior and other things that happen over time, you might need to retire it also in a graceful way. So this is a way that you would integrate both of these when you're using a waterfall approach. In this case, projects are managed in phases that are the 5 phases that we spoke about earlier. And each one of these phases that are part of the product lifecycle may be a set of interrelated projects that can be done over time and applied to the same product. But then along, at the turn of the 21st century, came Agile methodologies and the eventual introduction of Agile project management. And of course, anyone that has been in an Agile development approach knows that Agile it's a different way of working together in a small team, because the teams are by definition have to be somewhere between 5 to 9 people, no more than that. And yes, you may be leading a team as a product owner. So is the product owner a project management position, or is it a product management position, or is it a hybrid, kind of a combination of both? You can type in the chat and tell me what you feel the product owner is. And we can talk more about that. But in essence, any Agile methodology now changes the whole paradigm, because now you fix the number of people, you make the tools available to everyone in the team, the same tools across all teams, and every team is responsible for self-managing and coming up with their own product backlog, their own sprint backlog, and do their own planning of the sprint or iteration, then go into the work. And at the end, they continue to do daily stand-ups and daily review of work that has been accomplished and work to be done. And eventually, once they wrap up, you can get into the sprint retrospective. So you can say that Agile already has embedded into it project management, and it assigns project management responsibilities to the team itself. So the team is supposed to be self-organizing and self-aligned in order to manage themselves and the work that they undertake. And they're supposed to be scoring the work based on an agreed upon way of assigning points of value being delivered to both the organization as well as the customers and users of the intended solution that they're working on. But it's in essence a way for them to continue to develop products. And it's an iterative approach, an incremental improvement to products. So everything that you do in an agile way, by definition, is going to be incremental improvement of current products. And of course, that includes removing any defects and ensuring that your quality continues to improve incrementally over time as the product continues to sell and be used by customers in the market. So talk about the differences between version 6 and version 7 of the PMBOK. Here's the outline. There's no longer, in version 7, there's no longer knowledge areas. Now there's something new called project performance domains. And instead of 10 things, now you have 12 things to track for any project. In addition, the waterfall approach of managing a project, the standard, now becomes another method, which is part of what you call the waterfall method of managing projects. But it also includes agile project management, which is the actual implementation of the agile methods that I spoke about previously. And here are the 12 principles that are part of version 7. It includes stewardship, team, stakeholders, value, and that is something new because value was nowhere to be found in previous versions of PMBOK. And systems thinking as well is something new. Leadership, tailoring compared to integration, tailoring instead of integration. Quality is still there. Complexity is now something new. Risk is still there. Adaptability and resiliency is new, and change. But if you compare these principles that appear to be complete, some of them are fairly new to project management, look what happens when you compare that to the Agile Manifesto principles. And there are 12 of them. Literally, you can draw a linear relationship between the project management principles and the Agile Manifesto principles that are outlined by the Agile Manifesto that was produced at the beginning of the 21st century. And now they're part of the project management principles. There's also an introduction in version 7 to project performance domains. And those include things that are now have been moved from domain areas to now being knowledge areas, to now being domains instead. And that includes stakeholders, team. Development approach and lifecycle is something that now is also new because now you have to determine how to match. Are you working in a waterfall environment? Are you working in an agile environment? Or are you working in a hybrid environment where you might have projects that use a combination of one or the other or both? In addition, you still have the planning. You still have to figure out how to manage the project work, manage the delivery and the measurement and measure uncertainty. And if you're moving into an agile methodology, now you can start implementing lean agile and design thinking as part of the integration of what you do. And that includes moving into the lean agile, which includes moving your product lifecycle and actually dividing that into at least 3 key pieces that are part of ensuring that you have a viable, desirable, and feasible product to deliver at some point into the market. And that includes product discovery, product design, and product delivery. Now, I want to point out that anything agile, there's iteration, right? You're supposed to be doing incremental improvements, and sometimes expect that you might need to go back a step or two in order for you to actually get to success. So even though everything looks smooth and linear going from left to right, often in the way you practice this, you may be going back and forth in between one phase and another as you're learning new things that you didn't know were important that actually become important once you have validated this in the market with real customers and users. And so the earlier you start the process, the better off you are at not only understanding and empathizing with customers and users and understand their behavior, but in actually anticipating changes to that behavior as well. So by following Lean Agile, you can actually start doing things like concept testing before and figuring out, is the concept going to be strong enough that it's actually worthwhile to commit more resources to actually move into designing development. And that is all based on concept testing in the marketplace. Doing product validation to ensure that, if you're starting to already do designing development and before you get done, can you get an early version of the product that is at least mostly functional, still in progress, still under construction, so to speak, but at least get some feedback from customers so that you can at least know whether you're going in the right direction or whether you forgot something or still include some more until it's ready to be launched into market. And that is called product validation. And then the last one is about launching it and ensuring that by the time you launch, you know that you can drive that product into growth and then maturity so that it becomes profitable over time by just continuing to sell and do incremental improvements and incremental fixes to any kind of defects as once you have launched into market, but at least ensure that whatever it is, there's nothing that you forgot that may lead to a defect that might lead into a return or a recall. And also, in addition to that, being able to ensure that you continue to deliver more value to your customers and users over time once you have introduced that product to market. So you don't stop maintaining the product once it is in delivery. Every time that, as often as the customers need to buy the product all over again, because there usually will be some sort of usability period, and then they have to buy again, you continue to do incremental improvement once your product is in product delivery. And these are the things that you can actually do to actually start integrating the product lifecycle with the way that you would implement and build a product until you get to delivery. Moving on to the next thing is about talking about the specific deliverables and how they have changed. In version 6.0 of the PMBOK, the left-hand side kind of talks about all these key deliverables for any project manager in order to actually start measuring the quality of the outcomes of any project they're managing. On the right-hand side are the key deliverables that product managers typically would have to do when they're following the product lifecycle for the specific product they're managing. Here's how Agile has turned that around specifically for project managers. A project knowledge base over time now has to become a product knowledge base. A project portfolio management system now needs to become a product portfolio management, because in a product world, products are a collection of interrelated projects and they all have to be tracked together. Work breakdown structures now become product and sprint backlogs. Feasibility studies become business cases about a product, justifying why a product has, should be moving on to design and development, and really convince executives and customers that there's a business model that makes sense to fit in the market. Product requirements become customer and user stories instead. Lessons learned for projects now are part of a sprint retrospective. And then the quality assurance plan can become part of a continuous QA testing and perhaps even an automated test plan for doing unit and functional and system level testing, in addition to interrupt testing that needs to be done and often automated as much as possible, because now that there's web-based applications, you often have to connect and automatically interoperate with other third-party applications with zero development. And that is the expectation of most customers today. So all of this has been shifted specifically within companies that are doing software, as well as IT software, portals and platforms that allow users to have some sort of subscription model for their software. So some of the key takeaways are that both roles guide key decisions, activities, and decisions to be made. Both roles impact profit and loss. Project managers deliver greater quality. Product managers deliver greater value. Both may be associated to the same product, but then project managers manage the quality of that product, whereas product managers deliver the perceived value being delivered to customers and executives and other stakeholders that are part of the organization. And both roles collaborate to deliver both quality and value for the same product. Moving on to the next thing, some of the skills that can future-proof your career. And I think it actually talks to product managers as well as project managers. If you're a project manager, you know that project management has a wide variety of skills that are needed that are all part of project manager. Well, product managers need to understand not just project management, they also need to continue to improve leadership, critical thinking, adaptability, the ability to empathize specifically with customers and users and executives and other people that they work in within the organization, but also people that are outside the organization, and increase the digital skills. So the way that I would say this, putting all of these collection of skills, this is what product management is all about. And this is often why product management is ranked higher within organizations that have both roles, because it entails not just project management skill set, it also entails other skills that are critical that only product managers get to use, because they have the ability to shift between guiding internally focused activities and resources towards also guiding and influencing external people, not just customers and users, but also others that are tracking what is going on in your market and industry. And I would say this is a collective of what product managers need to have, in addition to project management, other skills that make them much more essential. And you can grow all of these skills. And you should be continuing to focus on always be learning in order to continue to acquire these skills, because there's a lot of reskilling and upskilling that needs to be done over time to be an exceptional both project manager in addition to being an exceptional product manager. And if you're interested in continuing to upgrade or reskill yourself to become a top-notch product professional, join our community. We actually focus on having activities that help you grow your product management skills, and in finding new opportunities and expanding your network to not only get to know other managers, but get to know product managers within organizations, and maybe get you an insight into specific opportunities that you may be interested in the near future. So you can actually join the Bold PM community by going to the short URL at the bottom of this slide. And I'm going to be sharing this via the chat so you can actually track this as well. And before we get into Q&A, here's a way that you can reach out to me. If you have any questions or you have anything that you want to maybe go into in a more deeper way, one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me. You can either connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can email me, or you can follow me on Twitter, and I'll be glad to continue to share information, but also set up a time to speak with you if you are interested in learning more about how you can shift your career from wherever you're at to become either a better project manager or a better product manager. So with that, we're ready to go into Q&A. And just let you know also that if you actually are attending today's discussion, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you attended this particular session, and I will send you a link where you can view the entire slide deck of today's discussion. In addition, I will share the video, the recording of today's discussion, and also send you a free ebook, which is called Product Manager versus Project Manager. And that's a free ebook that you can download that gets you more detailed regarding this conversation about understanding the differences between product managers and project managers and how they work together and how collaboration is key for both roles to actually work together in order for the organization to become much more effective at and becoming more resilient to be able to overcome any unanticipated challenges that may be coming ahead. So with that, I'd like to go into Q&A and thank all of you for paying attention, and hopefully we'll be able to answer many of your questions. So I see one of the questions here is, what is the difference between program management and product management? And I would say that if you look at the definition of PMI from the PMBOK, straight out of the PMBOK, a program manager, by definition, is a person that manages interrelated projects. And as a program manager, you may be managing a team of project managers. Well, a product manager is very similar to a program manager because the product manager is managing teams and interrelated projects that are all about the same product. And that's really, a product manager is really more like a program manager for the specific products that they're managing. So that's a short answer. On the other hand, there are organizations, the same organizations that I mentioned earlier, some of the world's most admired companies, that actually have all of these management roles implemented, not just project managers and product managers. They also have product marketing managers and program managers working together. Just the responsibilities are clearly different. One example is that the product manager is managing all the projects that are related to their product. Project managers continue to work on specific projects that fall into one or more different types of products. Program managers may be assigned to markets and or types of accounts, especially when you're a B2B software vendor, for example, like Atlassian, which is the producer of Jira, the software, and it's used across multiple industrial sectors. Well, often in those kinds of companies, there are program managers that are assigned to specific industrial sectors that may exist in multiple markets. So one example would be a program manager assigned to sell Jira into construction companies, as an example. And understanding that construction companies are usually laggards in the way they adopt any kind of software product. Compared to other types of industrial sectors, construction firms tend to be kind of slow at adopting software platforms. And often, it takes a specific set of marketing and sales activities to get them to adopt. And actually, it is the responsibility of program managers to understand what is the best way to present and the best way to communicate the value proposition of your software product to the specific organizations and accounts that you want to sell into. And that's a program in itself, because as the buyer behavior changes for that specific industrial sector, the program needs to be adjusted. And the program may be about how you market, how you position, how you sell into those type of accounts. And that is all that they're responsible for. Yes, there may be some requests that come from that niche that go into your backlog for product improvements at some point. And at that point, that is shifted on to the product manager's responsibility to figure out when can you execute on those requests. But this is how program managers are assigned differently than product managers and different than project managers. So that's just one example. I hope that answers your question, but just one of many ways that you can actually have all three roles implemented within the same organization. Another question that I see here is, what is the best approach to shift your career from project management into product management? And what I would say here is that you definitely need to make sure that you continue to, just like PMI is a certifying body for project management, and you have to prove that you have the knowledge and the expertise. There's also a way that you can become certified as a product manager, and that is a different organization that provides those certifications. There are courses and there are exams that you can take to actually earn those certifications that allow you to gain the knowledge and then show that a third party has validated the fact that you are now have the knowledge to actually work as a product manager. Just suffice it to say that yes, your project management skills will help you in the way that you can actually do your work, but there are other specific skills that you don't exercise as a project manager that you need to learn in order to become a better product manager. And those can be learned, but you need to go to the right source to actually learn those things. And so expect that you would actually go through additional learning and training before you can actually make that shift successfully. If you're interested in making that shift, I can help you because this is exactly what I do. I provide coaching services to anyone that is looking to either become a better project manager or a better product manager. And you can feel free to reach out to me and we can set up some time to figure out where you're at, what your objectives are from a career point of view, and then figure out how I may be able to help you through coaching and mentoring. So hopefully that answers your question, and let me know if there's any more. At this point, I would like to actually thank all of you for attending today. And remember, connect with me and I will send you a link where you can actually have access to the entire slide deck for today's discussion, in addition to the video recording. And you will also get a link where you can download your free copy of the Product Manager versus Project Manager ebook that I spoke about earlier. With that, I'd like to thank Susan once again at the Great IT Professional. In addition, I want to thank all of you, the audience, for being so engaged. And I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you again sometime later this year. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your week.